They came with smiles and stayed with fire. In the red heart of West Africa, where kingdoms once flourished and spirits spoke through the trees, stood a city unlike any other. Benin. A civilization rich with wisdom, order, and divine kingship. But what happens when a kingdom refuses to kneel before empire? This is not just a story of conquest. It's a story of resistance, of art, betrayal, and legacy. This is the fall of the great Benin Kingdom. In what is now southern Nigeria, a marvel rose from the land. Benin City, built with such planning and grace that European explorers wrote in wonder. Encircling this city were vast walls and moats, over 16,000 kilometers in total length, built by hand, over generations. These were not just walls. They were fortresses of pride. Within them, bronze casters, ivory carvers, warriors, and priests lived in perfect order. The Oba, the king, was divine. His word was law. His presence sacred. This was a city of gods and craftsmen, of artists and generals. Benin was no village. It was a capital. A power. A symbol of African sovereignty. The Portuguese came first. They traded gifts and learned respect. Benin traded freely, pepper, ivory, artwork. It set its own rules. But centuries later, Britain came, this time with a different goal. They didn't just want trade. They wanted control. They wanted ports, profits, and palm oil. But the Oba would not be bought. He maintained the protocols of his ancestors. No direct contact without his approval. No business that bypassed the palace. No disrespect for Benin's sacred rights. The British grew restless. They called the Oba stubborn, uncooperative. But really, he was just sovereign. To them, that was unacceptable. In 1896, acting consul James Phillips wrote to London. He asked permission to invade Benin. The answer never came. But Phillips didn't wait. He gathered 9 men, arms, and local potters. And he marched into Benin during a sacred festival against all warnings. The Oba had made it clear, no visitors. Not during the Igu. Phillips ignored it. As they approached Ogbine, warriors attacked. Phillips and most of his men were killed. Only 2 survived. It was a tragic misunderstanding, or maybe a provoked incident. Either way, it gave Britain the excuse it needed. War was declared. But war was not what they brought. They brought destruction. February 1897. Over 1,200 soldiers, sailors, and officers set sail. Not to negotiate. To punish. They called it a Punitive Expedition. It was one of the most brutal colonial campaigns in African history. They stormed through the kingdom, burning towns, destroying farms, shooting anyone who resisted. Benin warriors fought bravely, but how do spears defeat Maxim guns? They couldn't. The capital fell. And then came the looting. The palace, centuries old, filled with sacred bronzes and ivory tusks, was stripped bare. Thousands of artifacts, bronze plaques, ancestral heads, ceremonial swords, and carved tusks were stolen. Packed into crates. Shipped to Europe. Sold. Displayed. Proud symbols of conquest in foreign museums. But what they stole wasn't just treasure. It was history. The Oba Ovonramwen fled into the forest. For 6 months, he hid, watching his kingdom be dismantled. Finally, he surrendered, trusting British promises of safety. But betrayal followed. He was arrested. Stripped of his crown. Exiled to Calabar. There, far from his palace and people, he died in 1914. He never saw Benin again. But his legacy did not die. It waited. In silence. In stories. In the scattered bronzes, whispering of glory and pain. Over 4,000 artifacts were looted. Today, most remain outside Africa. They sit in the British Museum. In Berlin. In Paris. in private collections. They are admired, studied, photographed. But they were never gifts. They were never surrendered. They were stolen. Each one is a voice of a people silenced by empire. And yet, they still speak. Because the call for restitution is rising. Benin's children are asking for their ancestors back. And the world is beginning to listen. The kingdom may have fallen, but Benin still lives. The Oba's lineage continues. His descendants still reign in Benin City today, respected by millions. The bronze casters still work. The rituals are still performed. The drums still beat. And now, the Edo Museum of West African Art is being built to receive the looted treasures when they return. To tell the story fully, truthfully, and with pride. The fall of Benin was not a fall into darkness. It was a strike against pride. A strike against sovereignty. But fire cannot destroy truth. And time cannot erase greatness. The British said they came to civilize. But the people of Benin were already civilized. What they brought was greed. And what they left behind was sorrow. But also strength. You can burn cities. You can steal bronzes. But you cannot kill legacy. Benin still stands, in memory, in spirit, in pride. And its voice is rising again. If this inspires you, please like and subscribe to the channel.